Hi, this is Mark Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation. One word to help change your life. Please welcome Ron Henderson.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Motivation. If you're watching this in the morning, depending on your time zone, depending on if you're watching it on the internet, good morning. I'm Ron Henderson, better known as the Fitness King, and I'm sitting here with, believe it or not, this is the guest that I had on the show several weeks ago, Chris McArdle. And I got to tell you, he did such a fabulous job as a guest, I decided to invite him back to be the guest co-host of today's show. So I'm sitting here in the spot that he was sitting in, and take it away, Chris.
Well, Ron, thanks a bunch for, first of all, having me on for the second time, and I'm really looking forward to getting to talk to you about you a little bit more. The listeners and the viewing audience know a little bit. Let's know a little bit more. Let's go a little bit deeper.
Right. You want to get, so what he's trying to do is he wants to get up close and personal with the Fitness King,
With
the
the
way
one and
I do
only.
everybody else.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, obviously, Ron, you're the Fitness King. That's tremendous. Tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
I actually was born in St. Joseph, Missouri, but my dad actually got a teaching job and moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was literally raised in Fridley, Friendly Fridley.
Good
I can
place.
talk to you about that more later. Friendly Fridley.
It's a nice place.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Fridley.
I was raised in Fridley, and Fridley wasn't very nice at the time. But you know what? I'm thankful for the experiences that I've had, Chris, because in that experience it helped me to love everybody, because there were people that weren't very nice to me, and there were people that were really nice to me.
Totally. Well, obviously, a lot of people are nice to you now, Ron. You've accomplished a lot in your life, and
Well, thank you.
Definitely tell us a little bit about, if you could, your childhood and how you became the man you are.
Okay. Well, you know, I've had people ask me that quite a bit lately, but growing up, I can remember being out in Fridley, and quite frankly, we were the only African-American people, Chris, living out there in Fridley.
Okay.
And so I was literally called probably names almost every day of my life. And for a lot of people, that would have put them in an attitude where they might become racist. But I'm thankful enough that there were people around of the opposite race than me that weren't racist. So I had a lot of friends who were not African American. And so even though a lot of people that were Caucasian were calling me names, I had people standing next to me sticking up for me that were Caucasian. So it was a unique experience. But I say that just to lead into this, Chris. Because of the time that I was in, it was very racist. People jumping out of the car, trying to either run you over when you're riding your bike,
Ouch.
or a gang of people chasing you, that I found it was really important to be in really good shape. Now, I didn't know a lot about that, by the way, but I would see, you know, and I always mention this, I'd see Jack LaLanne on TV, going through his morning exercises, so I would do that. And then, of course, like the kids, I would have Popular Mechanics magazine, and I would see the guy in the magazine that was standing there, and there was a guy kicking sand in his face, and it was like, you don't want to be that guy? So I'd order those magazines. I remember Charles Atlas. I'd do isometrics at home.
Sure.
But that's really, I kind of got my start that way, and then, of course, growing up watching, believe it or not, Popeye the Sailor Man.
The one and only.
Oh, yes. And I'd see him, you know, I'd see him literally. This is truth. I'd see him eating spinach. So I'd get spinach, and I would try to eat it, but it was like really nasty. But I thought I really thought if I ate it, I'd get some muscles, okay? So that was kind of my start. So I started running a lot. My parents would actually go to the grocery store, and I would say, let me out of the car. I'm going to race you home. And so I would run, I'd jump over fences, and I did all these things because I felt like if a gang of people tried to jump me, if I couldn't fight my way out of it, I could run my way out of it.
Fight or flight.
Literally.
Get out of there. Well,
literally.
That's you know, a lot of people have that fight or flight mentality. Sometimes you got to get away from an altercation, and you know, obviously you said you started working out and things. What age were you at about, and what really motivated you? You hinted at it a little bit. What motivated you? Tell us what age you were and how you kind of really want to get going.
Yeah, I was probably, let me think. I mean, I know I was wrestling, believe it or not, varsity in 9th grade for Fridley High School.
Sure.
But I would probably say maybe 7th, 6th grade.
Okay, pretty young.
Grade, yeah, working out again, Jack LaLanne, going through his workouts and doing push-ups. I remember in 9th grade of junior high, they'd have contests, and they'd have a pull-up contest, and one week I'd be up there as the champion, and I felt good about it. The next week, this guy who was a friend of mine, Tom Smith, he'd be the champion. So then I'd work harder. The next week I'd be the champion. You know, the champion those days was 20 push-ups, pull-ups. 20 pull-ups. I'd do 21, he'd do 20, maybe I'd do 22, maybe he'd do 23. But we were in that range between 20 to 23. But those things in itself were things that actually were building a foundation for me, getting me in the habit of exercise. It felt good. People kind of gave you a little respect for that.
Definitely. And, you know, we talked a little bit about my family last week, and I want to talk a little bit about your family. Now, like father, like son, some people say, what were your parents like? And did they work out a lot? I mean, I'm just curious if that apple didn't fall far from the tree with you.
Right. You know, Chris, in my case, when you're talking about like father, like son, one of the things that when I'm speaking for different companies or whatever, I have a thing I call cracking the code on childhood obesity. And the way to do that really is to understand that in most cases, like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. So my mother worked out, she ran track and field, she fenced, she did karate. She was one of the first people actually in Robert Fusaro's school when he used to train out of his basement before Midwest Karate in Minneapolis. And he's still training now as a top sensei, but she took fencing lessons as well. What else? Fencing, track, she played softball. She was very, very fast. My dad, he played sports too as well. He was in, I think, baseball. And then what else? My dad golfs now or whatever. But I think it was just a family thing. My sister, who was my younger sister at the time, Rhonda Dean, she's now, happy to say she's the principal of Washburn High School in Minneapolis.
Tremendous.
But Rhonda was one of the fastest girls that I've ever seen run track. I had never ever seen anybody her age beat her. She was in Sports Illustrated several times.
That's incredible.
You know, she had just stacks and stacks. So that environment, our whole family really believed in the importance of taking care of themselves. And believe it or not, I think some of it had to do too with, like I said again, got to be in good shape because of the time that I was living in. Then also, my dad having 5 people in the house, having a new job. He didn't have the income to be able to buy things that other people could buy at that time. So I wasn't able to graduate and have a car, but I was able to graduate and be in good shape.
That's a good trade-off.
Yeah, and I'm always promoting the benefits of health.
Yeah.
Because that gave me something that nobody could take away from me. Chris, they can't repossess me. Only God can take this away from me.
Amen.
Okay.
That's right. And you know, Ron, we talk about the Word of God a lot and things like that, and you're a man of faith, and maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Yep.
But when I first met you, Anthony Bass, good friend of ours, had mentioned your name, Fitness King.
Okay.
I'm like, wait a minute, that rings a bell a little bit. How did you get the nickname Fitness King?
Well,
where did that come from?
The nickname Fitness King, or the moniker, really, I wanted to start a business to help people because working out in health clubs, people were always approaching me. And at those times, I won't even name the clubs, but there was a lot of them. And I used to work for Chapel Lane Health Spas, which I actually liked the structure of how they taught people. But I was constantly being asked, help me with this. And I said, I'm not working here. And sometimes the manager would come up and they go, well, you can't be helped. I said, I got a membership here, they got a membership, I'm trying to help this guy. And I was really frustrated with the fact that people felt like they couldn't get really adequate help in the clubs. So I said, I'm going to start this business, literally. And I was dealing with 2 things, and I told my father this. I wanted to go to Japan because I've always loved languages, okay, or China. And I said, if I go to Japan, then I don't have the money to start the business. My dad said, well, start the business, and later on you can go to Japan. I started the business, and when you come up with a business, you have to have a business name, right?
Yep, naturally.
So I went through Mr. Fitness. Kirby Puckett, by the way, you always called me Mr. Fitness. That was his name.
One and only Kirby.
Yeah. He called me Mr. Fitness, but I came up with Mr. Fitness, Fitness King, I think King of Fitness, and all these different names. And then you structurally, you write those names down, then whatever sticks with you. And I just thought, you think of a king as being somebody who represents something up here a little bit. He cares about people, and he's generally going to be well-educated and all these kind of things. And it stuck with me, so I kept it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that definitely shows who you are. You are a fitness king, and obviously in the room we're in, you personal train a lot of people. We'll touch on that here now. Why start personal training people? Obviously you're a very passionate person about this. What makes you want to wake up in the morning and do that with people?
Yeah, that's my passion, and I have a passion to help everybody, Chris, first of all, but especially people 50 and older, because I look at somebody like my father who just turned 88, who's in great shape. And here's the thing, Chris, and I mean this 100%. I probably call my dad once a week. Now, if my dad was sickly, I'd call him more.
Yeah.
I call him once a week because I want to talk to my dad, because I want to engage and have a relationship and continue that with my dad, and because I love him.
Yeah.
But I'm never calling my dad because I'm concerned about his health.
Amen.
You know why? Because he took the time to invest into his health. That's the importance, and that's why I tell people it's imperative that you take care of what you got, because I don't need to call my dad every other day because I'm worried about his health. He has that. Now, I know things can happen, but the bottom line is he prepared physically, mentally, he reads, he studies, and so, you know, the motivation to train people is based on those kind of things. Seeing somebody like my dad, who I trained years ago, got him on a good program. He understands the difference between working out correctly. People work out, most of them don't know what they're doing, and they do things that they think are right. They end up having neck problems, back problems, and it's years later, then you're trying to repair the damage. So being a trainer, I care for people, and I mean, I've trained probably some of the top doctors in the state of Minnesota, whether Minnesota Vikings, and I don't say that the name drop, I say that just to say that it doesn't matter who you are. One of my first clients cleaned houses.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another client was a janitor that I trained for 5 years. Now, understand this.
Yeah.
It seems that the people that come to me tend to be very good at what they do. So the janitor was one of the top janitors making a lot of money.
Yeah.
The lady cleaning houses was very good at what she did. But I have a passion for people, and I care about the mental, physical, and spiritual health of people. That's why I do what I do.
Totally. It sounds like the full package when you personal train someone. You mentioned spiritual, and then the body is a temple. You have to take care of it. God gave us one. We need to take care of it.
Yes.
Now, I have to go back to it because I'm a human being, and I do like athletes, and, well, people like that. Tell me a little bit about who you train. I know you don't like to name drop, but tell me about some people if you could.
know, I'll mention a couple because everybody's different. But you know, I had a great time training. Actually, Alan Rice gave me a Bible when I was training him.
Awesome.
Alan Rice, when he was running back for the Vikings, great guy. Greg Coleman, Gerald Robinson, he used to be at the Vikings, and he went to the Rams. So, I mean, I've had the opportunity, but for me, it's really not about somebody being a celebrity. It's about people that actually come to the office or come to my studio because they want to meet somebody that can train them, that knows what they're doing, and that cares more about them than their money. And the reason I say that is because I've always had this policy. If I'm training somebody, Chris, and they lose their job, I'm not going to drop them. I'm going to continue training that person for free. When they start working again, they can start paying me, but they're never going to owe me for that time that they couldn't afford me. Because health is wealth. Health is that important.
That's tremendous, Ron. Obviously your heart's in the right place. Well, Ron, it's about time I think we take a break. What do you say we take a short break here to listen to Endurance Church?
Sounds good.
We'll be right back on Motivation.
Good job.
On heaven, and it's going to last until hopefully the launch. It's a subject that I feel like has been neglected in the church. Because a lot of times I think people are afraid to talk and think about heaven because something always precedes heaven, and it's death. And that's what everybody is scared of. But we're here today to talk about the reality of heaven. And if I can make you excited about heaven, I guarantee your walk with God will be crisp, clear. I guarantee your passion to God will grow and become vibrant. I guarantee your desire to know God will expand. You have to be in a position where you are excited about where you're going.
Endurance Church, I believe, is a church that's designed to help individual people fulfill their own personal callings. What is our belief is that in Endurance Church, people will have the opportunity to fulfill their own God-given destiny. I was a former football player for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that experience weighed heavily on my decision to come back up to the Minneapolis area. It's everybody's individual responsibility to fulfill his or her call for Christ. And it's our goal to bring in people of all nations, all cultures, and to come into this church and worship God together. And then we have to be proactive at that. There's a lot of doors that have been opened up to me here in Minnesota that would have never been opened up to me anywhere else.
right, you're watching Motivation with your guest host, Chris McArdle, with the one and only Ron, the Fitness King. Thanks for tuning in today. And Ron, we're getting to know you a little bit better today. We've talked about some really interesting things, but as we continue in today's show, what do you do for fun? What kind of things do you do for hobbies? Maybe physically, not physical? What kind of things do you enjoy doing in your off time, per se?
Well, you know, people that know me well, and you've heard me talk about this, but I love languages, okay?
Yeah.
So that's one of the hobbies that I have. One of the very, if I was to say it to people out there watching, one of the very first, I guess it's first, languages that I practiced was sign language. Because I love, okay, talking with people. So that's one of the very first languages. In fact, I had a deaf client for quite a while.
Sure.
Studying Chinese. I love Chinese. To my friends out there, ni hao. Ni hao. I'm studying Japanese, you know.
Sure.
Nihongo, which is Japanese. Wakarimasan. Okay, o genki desu ka? How are you folks at home watching TV, terebi? You're watching terebi. That's what they say in Japanese. They say terebi.
Terebi?
Terebi.
You beat me to that.
Terebi,
one, so.
and I'm studying Farsi, Arabic, Salam Alaikum for those at home.
Wow.
And I love languages. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I don't care what it is. It's Cantonese, Mandarin. I'm studying a little, what is it? It'd be considered Somalian right now.
Sure.
Somali language. And Somali language. Iska Warren for folks at home too out there. Iska Warren. And it's all fun. I love it. I mean, I literally sit, folks at home, I literally sit in the bath. I know you think the Fitness King never takes a break, but I literally sit in the bathtub and I'm just reading. Dobre Utra, Dobre Viecha, and I'm studying my Russian languages. I love Russian too, by the way. You know, Ya lublю Ruski. I love it. I love people of all kinds. I just love people, and I think that's what made this. It's a hobby, but it's a part of my life at this point. I love people. If I meet a total stranger, I want to be able to connect with them. And I would see like deaf people in places, and I couldn't talk to them. So that made me get out there, and I've taken every level that you can take over and over because I just want to be able to communicate with everybody. So that would be probably one of my hobbies, languages. And of course, you know, I write books.
Yep.
Several years ago, I wrote the first book, which was What Is It Worth to Become Physically Fit? Then after that, I wrote Fitness Economics. After that, I wrote Fitness and Faith. And my fourth book that I'm coming out actually is a children's book. It's a children's book, full color, and that's Mason Gets Healthy. It's about a mouse that encourages all the other animals to start exercising. Something that you can read to your kids and get your kids thinking early on. Remember, it said father like son?
Yes, sir.
Early on about exercise.
Totally. And Ron, it sounds to me that you really enjoy what you do. And people say, you know, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. So it comes as no surprise that you come out with books, like you mentioned a little bit. One you'd given to me, and obviously I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I will read it, Fitness Economics. Tell me a little bit about what made you want to write that, and what are people going to find in that book? If you could explain that to us just a little bit.
I'll explain it and I'll actually show it.
Oh, there it is, in the flesh.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Fitness economics, folks at home, you hear there's so many, whether it's the corporations or you hear people at church, they all have the thing they talk about, financial this, financial that, and everything, okay? But if you take all those principles, and this is going to give you kind of a brief summation of what fitness economics is about. You take all the things that you think about when you're thinking about your finances, diversifying your portfolio, hedging your bets, and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Take all those kind of things, assets, liabilities. You want to make sure that your health portfolio is steadily increasing. Now, people that invest in things like the stock market, they can get the highs, but they can get the low. Got the bull market, bear market. They got all those things going on. But see, when you take the time, read a book like Fitness Economics. Okay, it's simple. It's made so that people can get an understanding that you have to apply those techniques to your health because those can steady keep increasing. You can always improve. You can be 60. I have clients that are 78 years of age, Chris.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can always improve your health. I've had people walk in and literally looked like they were dead coming in here. A year and a half later, they're throwing punches because we do a lot of things in here. Their reflexes have improved. They're walking. They got this agility going because they're stretching. So they diversify their portfolios by doing things, muscle building, strength things, stretching, strengthening exercises, aerobic type activity. You do all those kind of things, and now you're increasing your health portfolio, okay? The financial portfolio, that can come, but there's nothing really more important than health, Chris.
Well, totally. If you don't have health, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not alive to enjoy it with your family, what's it matter?
Exactly.
And Ron, I had a chance to listen to some really cool stuff. You have been on different radio stations, and actually I had a chance to listen to some on WGN. Tell us about why you went to TV. Why do this? Why have this show on TV? Why are you doing this?
Well, it's very simple. And folks at home, by the way, if you want to sponsor the show, you can. But you notice something, if you ever look at the credits of this show, I don't really have sponsors for the show, and that's because I'm not pushing that. This show is about motivating you folks at home to do better. It's about bringing guests on, like Chris McArdle, okay, who can also motivate you with things that they're doing. I come on TV because I realize that you can reach the masses of people, and my mission is to encourage everybody towards better mental, spiritual, and physical fitness. TV is a great way of doing it, and as you said, WGN, they probably have had me on 3 times in the last 14 months. They're one of the biggest radio stations in the market, and what I love about them, honestly, is they bring me on because they care about their audience.
Totally.
And I'm going on again too, by the way, but I want to motivate people. That's very important.
It is important. You talk about the different aspects of life, spirituality, and your temple, and how you're going to take care of it. And, I had the blessing of coming on earlier talking about my ministry a little bit. Now, you have this thing that you're doing that's really ministry-like, helping people that are out there. You have this GoFundMe that you've started. I had a chance to take a little look at it earlier this week. Tell us about GoFundMe and what you're doing with your version of it.
Okay. And if I could, let me say this.
Totally.
It's important just to share a little bit. Years ago,
More stuff.
More stuff. Years ago, I came out with a game called Muscle Match, okay? I came out with it. It's a game that you play with your family. It's a card game that makes fitness fun. And to be honest, the store at the Mall of America was so impressed with it, they bought several cases of it.
Tremendous.
Okay? So that was pretty cool. I came out with Fitness and Faith. That's power cards. You use these cards during commercial breaks. All right? Now, all the things that I'm telling you this because they were all designed to get people to start working out, taking better care of themselves.
Sure.
And here's the thing. People see the show and they want to train with me, but they can't afford to train with me, all right? I've had as many as 5, 6 people in any certain time, okay, that I've been training for free. People say, why do you do that? Because I care. But the reality is, I'm 61, all right, and I'm a busy guy, but there's only, it takes money. I have a nice studio. All those things take funding. So I started to GoFundMe because I wanted to see if I could talk to people out there, Chris, that had the caring heart that I have, that want to see me reach more people. So what it does is basically, it subsidizes. It's like cutting my fee down, let's say knocking my fee off by $60, and so that more people are able to come and see me for free. So the GoFundMe, people, they care about what I'm doing. They want to be a part of saving lives. And I said this before, there's nothing better than having a guy that's 77, 78 years of age saying, guess what? You have saved my life. There's nothing better than having a lady 68 saying, I can care for my ailing husband because of what you have done for me.
Amen.
And a lot of those people, I've actually done that for no cost. Now I'm asking the viewers and people that love this show and people that see me on Facebook, they love getting my free newsletters, they love getting the motivational message. I'm asking those people to sow a seed of investing into other people so that I can get more people in here, Chris.
Totally.
Okay? And with that, I'm also asking them to send me names of people that they know that could use my service.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I do. I care about people. I care about everybody's health. Sometimes I feel like I'm too passionate. I feel like I care more about people than they care about themselves.
Sure. Well, Ron, I think that's a good trait of someone that cares. You obviously do. And speaking of the audience, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that? Obviously, you're on the TV. People know that Facebook. Right. What other options, and how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in being a part of this GoFundMe and whatnot?
They could email me there's 2 ways they can do it. They can email me at ron@fitnessking.com. They can also go to Facebook and befriend me, Ron Henderson on Facebook, all right? They can do it that way. They can go to my website and do the contact form. That's fitnessking.com. That's another way they can do it.
Totally.
Okay.
Okay.
They can also, at the end of the show here, just stay tuned. I'll make sure that I'll have the information down there on the screen for you to go to the GoFundMe account.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure today. And again, this is the second time you've invited me on your show. And I would like to invite the audience to help you out with your GoFundMe. I know for a fact how passionate he is and how much you care about the people that you're training. The fact that this GoFundMe is going to allow people that can't afford it to train is reason enough to help you out, Ron.
Yep,
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. And folks at home, you may have, maybe you don't have an ailing dad, but maybe you have a neighbor, somebody that you know that you care about. Trust me when I say this, you have to make that investment into your health bank account while you can, because this is what happens. When trauma hits your body, whether it's a disease, whether it's an accident, whatever it is, your body's ability to handle that trauma will be based on what you've invested into it, based on what you have deposited into it. You always have to make deposits because sooner or later there's going to be a time when a withdrawal will be made, either willingly or unwillingly. But still, a person's ability to handle that, Chris, will be based on what they invested into their health. It's that important. And I want to just say, Chris, thank you for, I want to thank you for doing something that's never been done on motivation.
What's that?
See? Interviewing the fitness king on
Oh,
his own
wow.
show.
On my bucket list, I can check it out.
Yes, and I have to have you come on again. I really appreciate
Thank you,
Chris.
Thank you.
You're a good man. And by the way, we're going to be closing now motivation. If you need to get a hold of Chris McArdle, also he has a great project going on too. How can I get a hold of you briefly?
Definitely, real briefly here, Absolutely No Condemnation Ministries on Facebook. It's an addiction ministry. I have a website under construction. You can also email me, my cell, 763-300-1888, 300-1888. I have free